Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. What I have for you today is Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles. I'll show you how to print one, and if you watch till the end, you'll probably learn how to paint one too. I left this to print while I was at work, and when I got home, I realized that the 3D printer had stopped printing. Perhaps there was a power failure in our house, not 100% sure, but I was able to resume the print. But when it had finished, I realized that there was a visible gap. I then attempted to fill in this gap using Mr. White Putty by Mr. Hobby. To be honest with you, I didn't know what I was doing. If you read the instructions in the box, it just says use in a well-ventilated area. I guess I failed at that. But anyways, I'm just adding as much putty as possible just to see what happens with my hobby knife. And that's all I did. I went around and tried to cover up the entire seam. Then I came in with sandpaper and tried to sand it as much as possible. Unfortunately, the problem with this was that I didn't know that it was still wet. It doesn't say how long it has to stay before it dries, but it wasn't dry and it just came right off. I don't know if you can see it, but if you look at when I'm adding the primer on the actual model, you could probably see that there's still a little bit of a gap between this because a lot of it fell off. But I actually didn't record the part where I actually added more putty and started sanding again and had to do the black primer. And then I just did the white Cenotho highlighting. Now let's be honest, I'm not good at Cenotho highlighting. I'm probably not gonna do it ever again. I'm still gonna prime in black. This paint right here was a disaster. This paint was green radioactive. It's not exactly, it looks better on camera, but live when I was doing it, it didn't look that well. And here I'm just trying to add a different green, trying to salvage what I can, but it's not working. Then I go over the shell. The shell itself was pretty straightforward. It's just brown, and this is just a base coat. The front base, try to give it like a skin color, but I will come back later and add a darker tone to give it a little bit more texture, give it a little bit more pop. And I try to just cover the entire surface as much as possible, at least, without going over and spraying on the green. Here I'm going over the green, adding a little bit of lighter tone. This lighter tone was gonna help me smooth out some of the imperfections or maybe even the ooze that I put on the model previously. It's not the final coat, but it's actually getting better. It's getting a lot better actually than what I had before. I think this is more of a Ninja Turtle color. Here I'm masking with a white piece of paper. The masking is gonna help me so that I don't overspray on the green, which I tried to fix for about an hour. I don't want to keep doing this, so that's why I'm using the paper to mask it. Then I come in and give it a little bit of a darker brown to try to blend everything in and try to, I guess, give it a second coat. Here I'm doing the same thing with the front, with his chest, giving it a second coat so that the primer doesn't come through. What I'm doing here is adding more of a shade on the muscles and the bottom of his missing arms. I mean, he's missing arms, it's just a bust, kind of like a Greek bust, no arms. But I'm trying to shade under it. I go through the crevices, crevices just sounds, a little bit nasty. But I'm trying to hit in between every muscle. Now, the paint here is spiderwebbing a bit. I think I had too much pressure on the airbrush, or the paint was too thin. But I do come in and fix that in a minute. I'm trying to hit the back of the shell. Again, I'm going to the bottom of the arms that are not there. And when I say the back of the shell, I mean the inside of the shell. Now I go a little bit overboard here, but this is where I come in with a lighter tone. This helps me blend everything in. It doesn't look too harsh. It's kind of like putting maybe a white mask on top of something and then changing the opacity in Photoshop. That way everything blends in. I use Silly Putty. Yeah, Silly Putty, that toy that we use when you were little kids. So I'm using Silly Putty because Silly Putty is malleable and you could come in and mask a lot of things real quickly. And what I'm doing here, I'm trying to hit the edges, but I'm also trying to be careful not to overspray. I did come in and do a darker shade on the chest and on the back shell, but I didn't get it on film, unfortunately. But you could kind of see it here. Then I come in and do the orange Now the reason I'm doing the orange is because what I wanted to capture with this bust was, there's a comic book by Kevin Eastman called The Last Ronin. It's about the last surviving Ninja Turtle. The last surviving Ninja Turtle happens to be Michelangelo. And I wanted this to be Michelangelo because this bust looks like it's been through a lot. It's been through a battle. It has a scar through his chest, and it has a scar on his back with stitches on. And that's what I wanted to capture. Now, this orange is a craft paint. I wasn't able to get everything in one coat, so I had to come in and give it multiple coats because the green was coming through. I actually added way too much. I probably spent about an hour doing this. I am speeding this up here for brevity, and because I don't want you guys to get bored. I think these videos, I don't want to say they're boring, but I've been doing YouTube for about 3 months, and I'm not capturing the essence of keeping people engaged. So I'm trying something different. I'm doing this off the rip. Sorry. Anyways, going back to the model, I'm coming in here, and this is probably the 4th or 5th coat that I do on this side, but I think it's coming in perfectly. And I wanted it to look tattered. I wanted the green, a little bit of the green to come through. I wanted the actual mask to look like it was broken a little bit. And here I'm doing the stitches with some silver paint. The stitching, I wanted to look kind of like metal. And then I finally do the teeth. Well, I say finally, but this actually took longer than it looks on camera. I'm doing the teeth. The teeth are white. I do come in later and do a red wash to give it an impression that he has blood in his mouth. He has a mouthful of blood coming through his teeth. And then I come in and do the eyes. Alright guys, here it is. If you like it, let me know. Leave me a comment. And if you want me to keep on doing these videos, leave me a like. And if you want to continue to support this channel, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.